Wow. Hey guys, we're here at Wilder Ranch, Santa Cruz, California. Checking out a beautiful bike. Taking it a little bit off-road here today. I'm not sure this is the perfect application for this bike, but it's done really well. This is the Gazelle Arroyo C8 HMB Elite. So hybrid mid-drive Bosch is what the HMB stands for. C8 is talking about this 8-speed internally geared Shimano Nexus hub. I reviewed the C7 recently as well, and this one's $400 more. It's $36.99. There are a few main differences between the bikes. Aesthetically, it has this integrated headlight. It's built right into the fender. Very unique, fairly bright. It's got these nice cutouts on the side, sort of a light tube to keep you visible. Still has reflective sidewalls on the tires, and this nice brown accent which ties into the saddle here, and then these stitched faux leather grips. We've got a Spinninga Brasa rear light with one LED. Kind of gets the job done, but it's a little bit of an upgrade from the Solo on the C7. So for $400 more, you're getting a bike that gives you a higher gear ratio, so it's sort of a wider spread, and then you get an extra gear. That's going to make it easier to start and climb if you're out somewhere where there are some hills. Makes it a little bit easier. But they both have the same battery. This is the Bosch PowerTube 500. They both have the same motor. This is the Active Line Plus, rated up to 50 Newton meters of torque, 105 RPM pedal support, so it's a step above the standard Active Line motor, which Gazelle has on one of their even cheaper models. It's the City. I like these bikes because they're so clean, they're so approachable. The frames just, they look really beautiful, and we've got this very unique sort of narrow aerodynamic suspension fork that, you know, it doesn't give you a ton of travel. It's like 30 millimeters right there, but we also have a suspension seat post with 40 millimeters of travel and a really nice gel saddle. So, you know, taken as a whole, this thing is just really elegant, really classy, and the frame is so well done. Perhaps the only complaint I have about it is that they didn't get bottle cage bosses. You know, I'm always looking right there thinking maybe they could add them. You could have like a folding lock or something, sort of a matte black finish. This bike only comes in one color, so hopefully you like black, and it does still come in 3 frame sizes, which is wonderful. The black ties together really nicely. A lot of electric bikes, or bikes in general, they choose black because a lot of the fenders tend to be black. You can see these bungee straps are black. The wires, the cabling, everything, it's black, so it sort of blends and it looks cohesive. Gazelle does an excellent job routing all the cables through their frame, so it really is clean, but I think the black just makes it look like one unit. Coming back to the rear here, the frame aluminum alloy, it does extend up, and there's this bridge, and this bridge helps to support the rear fender so it doesn't rattle around a whole lot, and it supports the rack, which gives you that higher weight capacity. We do have a pannier blocker on the side, also a little, you know, bungee clasp area with that knob, so it's not going to slide around a whole lot. I think you could mount a lot of the sort of hanging panniers that sort of click on. This doesn't quite look like standard gauge tubing. It may be slightly wider, and it's sort of a square versus a circle, but I still think it will work well, and it's rated for MIC HD. I think that's a sort of rack that clips on, maybe more popular in Europe. I haven't seen a whole lot of that in the United States. This thing is rated up to 27 kilograms, which is 59.5 pounds. That's quite a bit of carrying capacity. Most racks I see are only rated to 55 kilograms, or even just, you know, 50. So yeah, great job. 50 millimeter fenders. They are plastic, maybe a little bit of rattling, but they've done a really great job with the support arms here. They curve and they surround the fender. They're not like poking out and gonna scratch you, and they go fairly low, so this little rubberized end piece isn't gonna get cracked if it bumps into a curb or an obstacle, but it's going low enough to actually protect your feet and your shins a little bit better. 170 millimeter crank arms, plastic pedals with a rubberized grip. I think in the past they used to be metal, so this might be a weight savings kind of thing. The bike is 59 pounds, the one we're looking at here, which is the large size. Keep that in mind. It might be closer to 58, you know, 58 and a half. But most of the weight is kept low and center on the frame because the motor is 7.1 pounds and then 6.7 pounds for the battery with this nice plastic cover. We'll get to that in a second. 38 tooth steel chainring. Back here, I think this is 18 tooth rear sprocket. You can actually see the chain through there. And I'm gonna do the twist shifter here for a second so you can actually see that thing move. So that's how you shift the gears internally. Internally geared hubs tend to be very durable. You notice there's no derailleur hanging down. There's no, you know, cassette that could get dirty and get snagged on stuff. It's all like tucked in, which is really nice, especially if you're at a really crowded bike rack or something. So I definitely appreciate that, but it does add some weight and it does add some cost. So those are the trade-offs as I see them. I want to compliment the rims here. Very nicely done. These are black, the hubs are black. The spokes 14 gauge up front, and it looks like maybe 13 gauge in the rear, a little bit thicker just to handle the additional weight of a possibility of rear cargo. We do have these reinforcement eyelets, which are very nice, and then adjustable brass nipples. Just doing an excellent job. Got a close-up here of the stamp Schwabe 50 km Energizer Active Plus. So they're rated for higher speed riding, kind of an e-bike rating. P-guard, so they are puncture protected, casing 5, and then I think they're rated 45 to 70 psi, so this is a higher pressure rating, yeah, and that means you can inflate it and have a sort of a harder, more firm, less surface area, less forgiveness for more efficiency. But then again, we do have some of those comfort points. You can't lock these out or anything, and they really don't give a lot of travel. So for me, seems like more of an efficiency build, and with the 28-inch wheels, these are 28 by 1.75 tires, you do get a lower attack angle, which helps to span over little holes or cracks, bumps, and stuff like that. So I think they're doing a pretty good job of making basically a city bike, going for efficiency. Now I want to point out we have the motor sensor back here. This is for your rear wheel speed. You can see a spoke magnet here, and it is bumped a little bit out of position. That's one of my complaints, or something just to keep an eye out for if you're getting a bike like this. Over time, there could be a little bit of interference, and if you get a read error on the display panel, a lot of times it has to do with that. Some of the newer bikes, they actually have it built into the disc brake rotor, and it's just tucked away, and it's not creating imbalance here on the spokes. Not a big deal. I just want to point that out since it comes up occasionally. And then let's see, if we go to the other side, we can talk about the hydraulic brakes. So these are Tektro 3-finger levers. They offer adjustable reach, which is great. We're on a large frame, so see, they're pretty extended right now, but we could bring them in a little bit and it'd be easier for someone with a petite hand. Hydraulic disc brakes, dual piston calipers, pretty standard. And in the back, we have a 160mm rotor, which kind of gets the job done. In the front, we have a 180mm rotor, so it's extra large, which is great because it gives you more surface area for cooling, a better mechanical advantage, a larger rotor to help stop these larger wheels. I think that's great. A lot of your weight tends to shift forward when you stop on a bike or a car or whatever, so having a bigger rotor up front is wonderful. Now the stem is pretty unique. It's got a pretty tall post that it's mounted on, and then it's got a tool-free adjustable angle, so you can slide this down and then, you know, swivel it forward or back, bring it upright for that classic Dutch body position, or angle it forward to get a little bit more aerodynamic, or maybe increase your reach depending on your height. By the way, this is 27.2mm on that suspension seat post, but we do have a shim 29.8 to 27.2. And the post, measured from the rails clamp all the way to the bottom, is only 300mm. I've seen other posts that are like 350 or whatever, so you could replace this with something that's non-suspended if you wanted to, or you can replace it with a nicer suspension post, maybe something like Connect, sort of the body float stuff. SR Sun Tour makes some. There's a whole bunch of options with more travel and even more cushion if that's what you want to do. Coming back up to the handlebar, really nice swept back, kind of a gull wing configuration. Really fun little twist bell built in. That's unique, and it complements the twist shifter, which has this nice optical readout. It says Shimano Nexus. Very easy and intuitive to use if you're someone who's not as familiar with like the trigger shifters and stuff. I'm more of like a mountain biker, someone who likes to press the triggers really fast. This shifting mechanism is really clean, it's intuitive, but it's just not as fast. And I found that I actually have to kind of ease off when I'm shifting a little bit for it to engage, because it has sort of a self-protection mechanism built in. And as we circle to the other side, I just want to compliment again how well sealed this chain cover is. So if you're pedaling, you got pants on like me, or maybe a dress or something, you're not going to get dirty. And really the chain is tight. There's no additional chain rings to change to, or sprockets in the rear, so it's always on track. It's not going to bounce up and down and make a lot of noise or make contact with the frame. And finally, we have the AXA Defender. This is a frame lock. Sometimes it's called a cafe lock, because you pull up to the cafe, you lock the bike and run in. You don't even really need to lock it to anything. It's just going to secure the rear wheel with this rod. So I'm going to try to show that. go, get the rod through, and we pull out the keys. They have an optional accessory that plugs into this side, the right side of the frame lock, and it would loop around like a pole or a bike rack, and that's possibly worth getting. But as you can see, people really couldn't run away by riding the bike. They could try to lift it and run, but it's 59 pounds, so, you know, good luck. I love that they have this key to like, so you can use the exact same key to open the battery. So we insert it, twist it like that, and then it sort of springs out a little bit, and you have to push your finger down in here and unlock this second step to get it to fully release. There it is. So again, 6.7 pounds on this PowerTube 500, 36 volt, 13.4 amp hours. It's got the same charging interface as we have built into the side of the bike right here. So that's nice. This cover is it's a little tricky to line up and get seated again. So I want to point that out, but I like that it's positioned high up, easy to access. Same with the key. Sometimes I see Bosch systems where the key and stuff, the charging port, are real low by the crank arms, and I really just prefer to have it up high. I don't have to bend over that way. Here is the charger. So they're giving you the full power charger. This is one of the differences between the C7 and the higher end C8, is that you get the faster one. It's 4 amps. It's going to charge the battery in 4.5 hours roughly from 0 versus 7. So you're doing a good job here. It only weighs less than half a pound more. So it's very portable. If you want to extend your trip, just throw this into a trunk bag or panniers or something like that. You're going to have no problem. Proprietary plug. Not going to get mixed up with anything. Very good. So now let's mount the battery back in the frame. Before we do, I want to point out they've got this memory foam down here to keep the battery from rattling. They've got this reinforcement shield and some additional welding. So they've really reinforced this down tube. And you can see the additional welding right here, and just the height on this thing. It's like an oval. So you're trying to reduce the frame flex as much as they possibly can. But it is still present a little bit. Most of these wave style bikes, it's just a long way to go with a single tube, and especially when you get into the larger frame size like we have here, there's just a little bit of flex that I'm feeling. And that's with me. There's no cargo or anything on here. The more cargo you add back here, you might get even more flex and shimmy. Just keep that in mind. It's not the end of the world, but it's sort of the compromise you make when you go for a wave frame. Now coming back to the battery, when we're ready to put it back in, this can be a little tricky. Kind of line up the base, but it won't go in, and even if you push hard, it doesn't work until you unlock that cylinder again and then push. There we go. And for me, that's a little bit of a bummer, because I'd kind of like to just pocket the keys and be able to pop the battery on again quickly. Another complaint is that in order to unlock the cafe lock in the rear, I've got to insert the key and twist, but now it won't let me take the keys with me. Okay, so I've either got my keychain here dangling, potentially bumping the tire, snagging my skirt or my pants, making noise, or I take the additional keys off of it, and then I have a single key that's just always in, and I have to lock it every single time I stop. It's just an extra step every time you stop. You gotta, lock it and everything. And then if you've got a single key, it's just sort of floating around, not attached to anything. I feel like it'd be a little bit easier to lose. Although they are very nice keys, and it does work fairly well. It's just one of the compromises, and I think in Europe they're more used to this. There are frame locks, however, that do allow you to take the key out anytime, and I kind of wish they would have chosen that. Before we get into the display, there's one more thing to say about the battery. If you're trying to turn the display on and it's not working, I've noticed that these batteries have like a deep sleep cycle, and occasionally you need to press the power button down here again to sort of wake it up. So that's why that's there. And just a quick tip for you, I recommend storing the battery in a cool, dry location. Try to keep it at least half full if you know you're not going to ride for a while. Extreme heat is really hard on the lithium-ion cells. They're not going to give you the same number of full cycles. It's going to kind of wear out sooner. And extreme cold might stunt it temporarily, so you're just not going to go as far on your rides. Okay, onto the display. This is the Bosch Purion. It's got 4 buttons: power, walk mode, plus, and minus. Comes on very quickly when you press the power button there. It's pretty visible, kind of a monochrome. It is dimly backlit, so if this was a dark lighting condition, you'd see like a white glow. At the top, we've got speed and miles per hour. We can change to kilometers per hour by holding minus and tapping power. In the middle, we have several menus, which I'll get into in a second. Lower left, the light, so the lights come on by default on this bike. And then we have a battery charge level indicator with 5 ticks. So each tick represents 20% increment. And it kind of leaves something to be desired. You know, if there's only 1 bar left, you're wondering like, well, am I at 20% or 0%? I might need to get home quick. So, you know, it's something to be desired. But if we hold the minus key for a second, we'll go from the assist level menu, which is where we're at right now, to the trip distance menu, total distance, like it's a sort of odometer, and then range. So it says, okay, 49 miles. We're on eco mode here, 86 miles. So it went way more range by going to that lower level of assist. But if I arrow all the way up to turbo, the highest level of assist, down to 32 miles. So that's much more precise than the battery. I'm really glad they included that. And if we cycle one more, we get back to the sort of level of assist readout. I'm gonna go to the trip distance here. If this had a number on it, we could clear that by holding plus and minus. It would just reset it. And regardless of which menu you're on, if you click the plus or minus, it temporarily shows you the level of assist before switching back. So I'm gonna take it down to tour, we wait a second, and it shows us our total distance again. I'm gonna cycle back to assist level only. So in the highest level of assist, turbo, that's where we get up to 50 Newton meters of torque. This motor system is pretty dynamic. You know, it measures that rear wheel speed, pedal cadence, and pedal torque over 1,000 times per second. This motor can support up to 110 RPM, so 110 rotations per minute. Got a little squirrel having fun over there, building a nest or something. So anyway, and it also has like shift detection, which isn't as relevant when you have an internally geared hub with that self-protection mechanism. But I just want to emphasize that this thing is smart. It's very dynamic, it's natural to pedal, and actually this particular model, when you pedal backwards, it cycles the chain backwards, which can make drivetrain maintenance easier. Again, less relevant when you have an internally geared hub like that, but that's sort of the feedback I have. I have noticed sometimes when I'm pedaling forward and then stop, there's a little bit of a clunk, because I think there's just some inertia, and since you can pedal backwards and forwards, and the gearing and the chain is connected the whole time, it just feels like there's a little bit of weight happening. Again, 7.1 pounds on this. I think enough said. Maybe it's time to hop on this thing, go for a ride. I like to ride in turbo because it's just a little bit zippier and you can kind of see and feel it on camera, but you're not going to be able to hear it probably because it's a little breezy and we got the ocean. And it's just such a quiet drivetrain. These Active Line motors are very quiet. They're very efficient, so you end up getting pretty good range, even with the 500 watt-hour battery, which is sort of middle of the line. Bosch does have a 625 watt-hour battery as well. Very comfortable and natural and kind of a upright body position. Give you a view of the beach as we head back. A little bit of vibration because we are, you know, high tire pressure right now. Sort of a bumpy section of trail. Nice and easy to use those brakes. I like to do the hands, no hands ride, see how well it tracks. Seeming very good. Even if I shake the bike a little bit, it just wants to keep going. The bikes are really well designed. Gazelle's been around for like 130 years, and they sell like 250,000 bikes per year, which is quite a lot. Shadow from a big bird up there. I don't know if you can see it. Pretty awesome spot. Let's do it. Oh yeah. Whee! Fun. It's actually feeling pretty comfortable. Definitely bouncing around there, but you know, we got 30 millimeters of travel up front. It's just a spring suspension. I don't believe there's preload. on that, and then 40mm suspension travel on the seat post. That one does have preload. You can take the post out. There's a bolt on the bottom, and you can tighten or loosen that using a hex tool. One of the other things is when you're climbing like this, kind of shift down to a lower gear, this motor, since it's the Active Line Plus, can support up to 105 RPM, which is a little bit faster than the standard Active Line. That only gives you 100 RPM. But by comparison, if we were to have a performance line motor, any of those support 120 RPM. So it's definitely a step down. I'm glad they went with Active Line. It's a little bit sportier. You can really spin fast, and it'll keep up with you pretty well. Hey guys. This is where the fenders come in handy. Well guys, thanks for coming on that little adventure with me. Had a great time testing this bike out. This is the Gazelle Arroyo C8 HMB Elite. For the full written review on this and some of the other new models from Gazelle, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. I've measured the standover height, the length, the wheelbase, basically everything I could hands-on, just to try to be as objective as possible with these bikes. And I was trying to point out some of the comparisons if you're looking at the C7 versus the C8. I feel like it's a really elegant bike, great for the city, and set up with everything you need, whether you're a commuter, someone who rides late at night or early in the morning, got the lights and stuff, even some additional reflectors. I feel like they do a really good job safety-wise. Gazelle is known for like triple testing their paint and sort of UV testing it and doing multiple layers and stuff. They're based in the Netherlands, where you've got the ocean and it rains a lot. So all of this stuff is, I think it's tested pretty well, and they've got good support. 2-year comprehensive warranty. They only sell through shops, so you get some help getting fitted and maybe maintenance over time, which is really nice. I do have a comparison tool back at ElectricBikeReview.com, as well as some forums, so you can talk to people who actually own the bike versus me. I'm just testing it for a couple days. I love you guys. Ride safe. We'll see you next time.